Well, hello there. Recently I sat down with filmmaker Chris Shern to talk about his movie Vic Effects. By the way, I'm reviewing Vic Effects today. This is one of my special enhanced reviews where I'm going to include clips of the interview that I did with Chris instead of the regular segments that I do in between the clips. People seem to really like those. Now let's get back to the show. Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the 3-Minute Horror Show. My name is Ben, your host, and I love horror movies. In fact, I watch the bad movies so that you don't have to. You're welcome. As I mentioned in the cold open, today I'll be reviewing the movie Vic Effects from 2025. A Foley sound design artist takes on a job from a mysterious new client and gets much more than she bargained for in the deal. Wow. This movie was written and directed by Chicago-based filmmaker and musician Chris Shern. As I mentioned before, I was lucky enough to sit down for an interview with him recently, and now you're lucky enough to see clips of that interview in the place of my regular segments. He's really cool. You're going to like it. Vic Effects cannot be streamed for free yet, but it is coming to Tubi soon. If you would like to rent or buy it, though, you can do so on Fandango. We start off experiencing a little bit of the work that goes into the sound design of a big creature fight scene in a horror movie. Our main character's name is Vic Paulette, and she's a Foley artist. What that means is that she makes all the sounds that you hear as part of a movie, whether that be bones breaking, flesh stabbing, metal clanging, whatever the situation requires really. You can buy libraries of canned effects, but these sounds feel much better when they're being created organically. This segues into a mock documentary in which Vic and her partner Coop are interviewed, along with a famous sound artist named Thomas Raven. There are lots of segments from other movies within the movie that we're watching, where we get to see Vic apply her craft.
Yeah, so what a Foley artist is a guy named Mike Foley. He created, like, that's why people call it a Foley artist, whatever it is. So that's his last name. I'm hoping his first name is Mike, but he created sound effects as far as, like, all those cartoons and like like cartoons and Disney movies that you see and stuff, and they're in a big studio and they're creating sounds as they're looking at the screen to create, whatever. Now you can do a lot more of that stuff through libraries because there's all kinds of sound effects, but Foley artists still exist. Like at this point with all the AI and all the technology, there's still these people in the studio who create these sound effects.
It's quite interesting to see the things that Vic uses to create the sound effects. A handful of pistachios can sound like walking on snow, for example. I would imagine that these are real tricks that Foley artists do, too, since the writer-director of the movie, Chris Shern, has done some sound design work. Most of the scenes we witness are from meta-horror movies. Some are more sci-fi, and I'll call this one a fantasy-type movie. Eventually, while working on their latest movie, Vic and Coop are approached by a mysterious man named Milo, played by Bill D. Russell. He comes to offer them some work. Thomas Raven was working on the project, but he's passed away. Naturally, the two accept the job right away.
Well, we shot on weekends. So we started filming in September of 2023, and we were done filming in May of 2024. And then I finished the edit in June of 2024. And then we did a crowdfunder because I ran out of money and I needed some money for visual effects.
Yeah.
And we raised almost $7,000
nice.
in our crowdfund. And I was like, cool. So that took some time to do the visual effects. So the movie, we did our premiere in 2025. Then I got a distribution deal from this distribution company called X4 Pictures. And they just released the movie on Fandango on March 6th.
This movie does something to Vic. It's scene after scene of a woman being tortured. But as she progresses with adding her Vic effects, see what I did there? She notices that things are starting to happen in the real world. Things she isn't quite prepared to deal with. Also, every time the two seem to be done with the work, there's suddenly more movie to add sound to. Milo shows up with some of Raven's tools and requests that Vic use them in her work on the movie. The strange supernatural occurrences intensify. What's causing this? Will Vic survive? Big thanks to Chris for providing me the screener copy of Vic Effects to review and pull clips from. This movie was very interesting. It's definitely not your typical indie horror story. And horror focused on sound design is something that hasn't been widely explored. The movie looked great, and I had no idea how interesting a Foley artist's job was. I also enjoyed seeing some familiar Chicago indie faces, like Bill D. Russell and Ann Myrna. Special mention to Amanda Winston, who did a fantastic job as Vic. The practical gore effects were very well done. I was quite impressed by what I saw, and they were created mainly by Caitlin Stack. Caitlin Stack also just so happened to be playing the torture recipient through most of the story. This movie was definitely worth the watch. I rate Vic Effects an 8 out of 10. As always, a link to my Letterboxd appears in the video's description. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe, as it really does boost my engagement and helps my channel grow. Smell you later, nerds!
Every time I try to make that skull crunching sound, it just sounds like I'm eating a fucking apple.